it was actually right here that we had to stop and get this letter that we were so freaked out about. We really thought that it was a permitting issue or something. We got this nasty, threatening letter from someone in our neighborhood.
Go back to Florida.
You go back to Florida. You're the one that made us come here in the first place. Got these folks all mad with us. All right, guys, so we had somewhat of a crazy day. We pulled up this morning and we had this letter on the front post when we came in, and me and Eric immediately panicked because we, of course, thought that maybe the city or the state said something about us building here. We pulled up and got the letter only to realize that it was a neighbor being nasty to us, telling us to go back to Florida and that we would be met with all kind of unpleasantness and just so much stuff. Eric is actually on the phone with one of the neighbors that lives up the hill. Previous owner said we're only attached to one property at the top, and he doesn't think that the old man would be able to even write or type this letter, but maybe someone else in the area kind of just want to antagonize or jump on this situation. So Eric's very calm, and they've been on the phone for about 10-15 minutes now. So I'm hoping that something great comes out of that phone call and we don't have to be nervous, because we do have our truck, our trailer, we have our Mini X, our 4x4, and a lot of equipment here, guys. So we definitely don't want any problems. But guys, this is not okay. We actually took vacation for about 3 days. We went to Charlotte and we just came back to the property, and we met this lovely letter nailed to our no trespassing sign in the front of the property. And this lovely letter here reads, "Bullying the old man up the hill will not be tolerated in this neighborhood. Us hillbilly rednecks will make sure of that. If you don't stop encroaching on his land, you will be met with a lot of unpleasantness. Go back to Florida." We are not going back to Florida because we have nothing to go back to Florida to. We sold everything to be here, and we are happy to be your neighbors. Do you talk about bullying? This is bullying. We went on a nice family vacation and came back to this letter being nailed. You obviously walked on our property to see our trailer and our tag that has a Florida tag on it to know that we're from Florida. And I just feel like that's ridiculous. Eric decided to call our previous owner and get some numbers of anyone that is close by that he knows, so we can try and get to the bottom of this. I'm a little bit more shaken up. I'm upset that someone actually came on our property and would go home and type a letter like this and put it in a Ziploc bag and then nail it to our sign in the front. I'm really nervous of that they came this close. So guys, we're really confused about today. We didn't think that we were making any kind of disturbance or having any issues with any neighbors. And we pulled up today and met this letter hammered to the front of our property. And we were so stunned because we only met one of our neighbors, and they're vacationers too. And we've never had any issues with them. So we got this letter saying that we were encroaching on a neighbor's property and we were basically bullying him. Well, long story short, we happened to get Mr. Owen's number. That's the only person that lives on the mountain and that is elderly. And our previous owner helped us out with getting the number. We spoke to him. We invited him down because we wanted to make sure that if he had written this, or one of his family members or someone, we wanted to make sure that this was not true, because we wanted to explain to him, like, hey, we're here in peace and we just want to meet everyone, and we moved from Florida and we sold everything, so we kind of can't go back to Florida. Not right now. And so he came down and we had an amazing time. He showed us so much about our property that we actually didn't know. And so this turned out to be like a blessing in disguise for us. So what turned out to be a crazy day to begin with, we actually turned it for some good. All right, guys, so Eric is going to take Mr. Owens, which is the gentleman that owns the property above us, around on the 4x4 just so he can show us his version of what he thinks the property line is. This is getting really interesting, guys. He's a really nice guy, but we're finding out that we have different views on where the property line could be, and that could be very interesting. We have a survey and we know where our property line is, so I'm hoping that we're just having differences when it comes to what we're talking about. I'm hoping that the differences is not actual differences in the property line, but just we're not visualizing what he's saying and he's not visualizing what we're saying. We just want to service him and understand where he's coming from and what just make sure we're on the same page. We're just trying to make sure everyone's on the same page about the property line and what we're doing here. Eric's basically taking him on a little tour and letting him know what we're doing and where we're digging and how we're digging. And I think this is going to be really good for us because we don't want any issues, guys. When we start to build our tiny homes, they are almost backed up to his property. We do have a good buffer in between us, like about 20 feet of brush, but we just want to make sure that he's happy about what we're doing and we're not disturbing him. So guys, so far so good. It looks like he's actually acknowledging that the property in here is ours and that he sees where the pin is. He's pointing at the pin right now. Mr. Owen's property is directly above this section, and I think he's really happy to see that there's no digging going on in his property. Matter of fact, guys, he didn't even know that anyone wrote a letter. He didn't know anything about a letter. He said he's not troubled by anything that's going on, but because we brought it up, he wanted to see what we had going on. All right, guys, so they are now headed to the top just so we can discuss that area and make sure that we are on the same page with the property line up there. Guys, this day started off so crazy. I was so just annoyed with that letter. I was so offended by that letter. Anyone that knows me know that I love the sweetness and innocence that comes with elderly people, that we would never, ever, 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 ever like disrespect or even try to intimidate any elderly person.
The septic.
See, he knew more about this than Milton.
Yeah, he knows a lot more about that.
Wow.
Okay, right here. The tank is right down in there. You see that little flat place right in that area?
Yes, sir.
Can you find
Okay,
something to
that's where
mark
the
it, baby,
tank's
so we
at.
can remember?
And the lines run after that away.
Okay. So yeah,
Mhm.
Milton showed us way over there.
Yep. Well, we had to bypass a lot of that stuff, and we had it went into the battery. It was killing the battery switches out. So we set up here on about 2.5 hours before we get it run again.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. That was me the other day. Everybody worked great for how long? We showed up here, would not work. And here one of the wires came off the starter because he has it all rigged up, barely pushed on, and then that push button switch wore out. Here I had to just jump it with a jumper wire now from one positive to the other positive just to start it. His ground burnt out, his little makeshift ground. Then power wires go right through the metal cab of the body that barely fit. It's like they're going to short out eventually, so I know I have to address that at some point.
Well, that's what I got to trying to tell him and everything like that there, and that's the reason he told me. He said, yeah, just come and get it and use it. And where the hydraulic fluid is, he'd never checked the hydraulic fluid in it. He'd been up here, God, I don't know how many years. And I had to take a pipe wrench and take that plug you had on the top of it. I took it out. Like, my God, I put 5.5 gallon of hydraulic fluid in it.
He's like, I've never changed a fuel filter. What do you mean you never changed a fuel filter on a diesel? It's like, on a diesel with 1,900 hours on it. It's like
Well, see, that's the thing about it. I changed the oil filter on it. I changed the fuel filter on it.
Oh, you did do that?
I did change the fuel
Thankfully
filter.
you did that, because
Yeah.
otherwise they never would have been done.
No.
All right, guys, this guy was so awesome to have over here because he seemed like he knew a little bit more about the property than the previous owner. He lived right up the way. He always saw when something was going on, and he actually was kind of a right hand around this way for the previous owners. He would let people on the property. He just told us that he fixed the Mini X a couple of times. He actually borrowed the Mini X a couple of times. So he knows more about the Mini X than the previous owner. And also he knows exactly where our septic and our lines are. When we do need to extend the lines, we know who to go to. And so we're really excited that this guy came over because he was a lifesaver. You know, this turned out to be a really crazy day to begin with. And then we realized that this guy knows a lot of stuff about our property, and he's gonna be able to help us because we actually thought that this day was going to be really bad. The whole neighborhood hate us. They wanted us to go back to Florida. And here it is almost an hour later. Mr. Owen is still here helping us with the property, showing us everything he knows. That is going to basically conclude the tour glad to know that he does not feel like he's being bullied. Like I said, he had nothing to do with that letter. He said if we found out who wrote it, please let him know, because he does not want to be a part of that stuff. He saw where we were digging. He applauds everything we're doing because it is going to clean up the area and clean up the property, and it's going to keep wildlife off of his property by us being clean. So he's really appreciative that we're the new owners. Guys, Eric has been suspect of almost everyone today about this letter. He has been walking around with this letter in his hand. Turn around. He has been walking around with this letter in his hand all day, just staring at the roadway, trying to see if anyone's slowing down or looking on the property. I can't lie, I've been doing that too, because we were so offended. We're new here. We've only owned the property, guys, for about 4 weeks now. We have not offended or bullied anyone. I can't believe someone would say something like that about us. That really offended us, because we know that we are not that kind of people. But anyway, it actually was a good day to get some work done, and our whole day has been taken over by this letter. And you know, after we invited Mr. Owen down and he started giving us so much info on our property, we just really had to take the information in, because our previous owner ran off to Georgia after he sold it to us. But that's something we have to talk about, guys. We're gonna have to talk about maybe how important it is to meet the neighbors while you're even looking at the property. That was something that we noticed, that when we were looking for properties, that a lot of neighbors would come out, and some of them were even nasty to us when we were just looking at the property. So you have to be aware that people are going to be just upset that you're coming into their area. All right, guys, you know that me and Eric, we are going to just laugh about anything. Right now, we are just putting this letter back up. Eric wrote a pretty funny but respectful letter back to the person that wrote it. And I agree, because for them to come over here and do that, that was pretty bold. So we want them to know that in our faith, we are bold too. And we are going to stand our grounds and stand up for what we bought and what we spent our hard-earned money on. So that's the one thing that they're going to have to realize, is we bought this property fair and square, and we're not going to be ran off because we're not doing anything wrong. We spent more than an hour today with the guy up the hill walking the property line, and he says that we're doing a great job and thumbs up. So I'm going to keep that as positive energy, and I hope that the person that wrote this finds this letter, and they actually, you know, calls us, and we can get this all squared away, guys, because we are building our dreams here, and no one is going to interfere with our dreams. So if you are upset, let us know, and we will fix the problem. So Eric is going to write our phone number on there, and maybe a little message, a friendly one, saying that we don't want any problems, because guys, in this message, there was a threat. There was an actual threat to me. I wanted to call the cops. Eric says, you know, let's just call the previous owner, see if we can find out anything about the neighbors and their numbers. And we tracked down Mr. Owen. We were able to talk to him. So we didn't really call the police anymore, but I wanted to call the cops just because it says in the letter that, babe, can you bring it here? It really says in the letter, guys, to go back to Florida. And I don't like that saying. There's a lot of capital letters in here, like they're screaming. They call themselves a hillbilly redneck. And I just think that if you're going to call yourself a hillbilly redneck, then you're willing to, you know, cause some problems, and I don't want any problems. So guys, this is the letter we got. It was literally almost nailed to the cross, I would say, on our no trespassing sign. That was upsetting, and I just can't believe it. So we're gonna, there you go, babe. We're gonna just write our numbers on there, and maybe a little message just saying, hey, we don't have any issues. We spoke to Mr. Owen, and maybe you guys are a little confused, but hey, just reach out and we can solve this and be done, because we don't want any issues with anyone down here. Moving on to some positivity, I just want to encourage some of you guys to go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Guys, today was so just turned upside down for us that we realized we have a hater in the neighborhood. I didn't think that we were gonna have a hater in the mountains. If you guys can just show us some love and go ahead and hit that subscribe button and find out how we move forward or who even did this,